Welcome to Kitchen Familiars. I'm Sarah, your kitchen witch in the Montevilla neighborhood at Personal Beast Pet Supply, and this is Jeff, my sacrifice. I need assistance.
Yes.
My Vanna White. Today we are making dog food.
For the Magickal Mackerel recipe, we had 3 cans of mackerel in water, 2 15-ounce cans and 1 5-ounce can. We had 1 bag of wild rice that was approximately 498 grams, a sweet potato, medium large, at 150 grams, kale at 100 grams, beef heart at 100 grams, pumpkin seeds at 30 grams, ground Ceylon cinnamon at 4 grams, chia seeds at 10 grams, almond milk fortified at 250 grams, blueberries at 50 grams. We've reduced the spirulina to 15 grams, and you could reduce that further to 10 grams without unbalancing the recipe. Ginger at 20 grams, quail egg at 32, that's approximately 3 quail eggs, and vitamin E at 24 milligrams, calcium carbonate at 1,000 milligrams.
Jeff will be doing all of the preparation. So Jeff, if you would be so kind as to chop this kale for me very finely.
Absolutely. So one of the techniques I use to chop leafy greens more finely is just to roll it up. I do this with herbs too.
And you could go ahead and chop the ribs as well. We're going to use all of this.
So I just go through it about 3 times like that in the different directions. Is that close to about the right size?
Yeah, so dogs don't digest these fibrous greens very well unless they're finely chopped up, and then we're also going to add them in with the rice when we steam the rice so that they are lightly cooked. That way it's more bioavailable for our pets once the whole finished product is mixed together. Also, it prevents them from picking large chunks out and spitting it on the food. And then the reason that we're using this kale is because oftentimes these home-cooked recipes call for spinach. And spinach is great if your dog doesn't have any issues, but it can take up heavy metals from the soil, and it also has high oxalates, and oxalates can add to crystals, which is more of an issue with cats than it is for dogs, but for some dogs who struggle with kidney health, the oxalates could cause a problem. Also, spinach is higher in phytate. The phytic acid, it can bind to heavy minerals, which is great for your heavy metals you don't want, but not very good if you want phosphorus, right? Or maybe there are trace metals and minerals that you need, like your copper or something like that. If it binds too much to the phosphorus, it could throw your calcium-phosphorus ratio off. And calcium-phosphorus ratio is very important in the dog world because that's how they regulate a lot of their systems. Calcium and phosphorus are very dependent on one another to be properly stored. That's it for the chopping of kale. So next would be the grating of the sweet potatoes. We are going to grate this just with the skin on, and we're only going to need about half of that actually. So if you want to go ahead and just roughly cut it in half, and then we can just grate it up.
Okay.
Alright, so yeah, just go ahead and pour it into this bowl here.
So we had half of a grated sweet potato, skin on, grated whole.
Yeah, so we're leaving the skin on because really the sweet potato is just adding some fiber. We want that prebiotic fiber so that all of the bacteria in the gut has something to eat. Essentially, you want to keep that good gut microbiota going. And there's a few things that we have here specific to the gut microbiota. So besides the sweet potato adding that fiber, we also have this spirulina, which adds other things in the diet. It has been, in some scientific studies, very promising for keeping plentiful, good gut bacteria, especially the lactobacillus species, in the numbers that we want to see.
So is this a pre and probiotic?
It would be considered a probiotic, I believe. No, that's not true. Probiotics would be just putting the bacteria directly into the gut, and since this is feeding the bacteria that's already there, I suppose it's a prebiotic.
Okay.
It's beneficial for our pets as it is for us.
And the gut, the microbiome, I've heard, is directly connected to mood and brain health.
The brain function, yes, absolutely. So, one of the reasons why I started down this journey of going to school for our pet's nutrition specifically is because I had a dog with some major aggression issues. He came up from Texas. He had all sorts of viruses, health issues before he came up to us. He was exposed to parvo. He survived parvo. He had giardia. So this poor pup had really run the gamut, and it had just wrecked his gut system. And I think while we have some amazing veterinary behaviorists here in Portland, they're looking at a very big picture. And while diet is important, it's maybe not always on the radar.
Sure.
Unless a dog is specifically deficient in something, or we can really pinpoint what part of the diet isn't supportive for that dog's overall well-being, most veterinary behaviorists are going to say, just make sure they're eating. And that's enough sometimes. Sometimes it's not enough. Sometimes we also want to be supportive with our diet, because maybe they're specifically experiencing things that have stemmed from not having their needs met dietarily previous to when they're coming to us. I mean, oftentimes they're coming from a shelter or they're coming off the streets. We have no idea what they've been eating.
Right.
You know, supporting with a diet that looks at the whole picture, not just the microbiome, but also, you know, how many of those amino acids that we need for our dopamine production, your tyrosine, your L-theanine, your tryptophan, all of those things are important and in a specific ratio so that we can get the dopamine we need to be happy.
Yeah.
Humans, happy dogs, happy creatures. It's important.
So I'm grating some ginger.
We're just gonna, again, leave the skin on. It's fine, it's fiber. We're gonna grate it really finely and then we're gonna cook it. So hopefully the dogs won't even notice that it's there.
I love that smell.
Smells good, yeah.
And it felt so much like fall this morning too, with all these.
I know, I love this time of year so much. Spooky season, things are getting cooler, leaves are turning colors, vegetable gardens are still producing, it hasn't gotten quite cold enough to kill everything off. It's beautiful. And my birthday's coming up,
When's your birthday?
the 8th.
Oh, cool.
Does your cat help you in the kitchen?
She yells at me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she sits there and goes, faster, faster.
Do you ever cook for her?
I do, but
Yeah.
not this elaborately.
Sure.
I'm sure I'll be starting.
I'm sure
Yeah.
most people don't.
I mean,
yeah.
I'll treat her sometimes, and I'll just cook up a chicken thigh or something and shred it, or buy some parts, and she goes to town. So.
Sometimes I accidentally leave chicken on the counter. Like, oh, oops, I forgot this. I hope no cats come and eat it. Because if they think I left it for them, they won't eat it. But if they think they're stealing it, it's game on. All right, so we've got our ginger.
So ginger has such a sharp flavor
I
to me.
know, it does,
It's funny
definitely.
that you get a dog or animal with such a strong nose to go for it. So
Well-
talk to me about ginger.
Yes, so, you know, there's been recently, maybe it's not all that recent, right? Because superfoods have been kind of a big deal forever. I mean, I remember my aunts and cousins being really onto like the raw food diet,
Oh, yeah.
super nutrient dense. But ginger obviously has some superfood benefits. It's anti-inflammatory. It has a lot of trace minerals that we really need to make sure are staying in our dog's diets, especially in combination with like a turmeric or a cinnamon, right? Those anti-inflammatory properties can help with pain relief, it can help with joints, and just overall keeping that system from overreacting. Here in the Pacific Northwest, it's ripe with allergies. We have people coming in every day going, oh, my dog's itchy, my cat's itchy, I think it's the food, I think it's the food. Most of the time it's environmental. We have a lot of environmental allergies. So we've got some things like the ginger, like the cinnamon, that are going to help keep our system regular, keeping us running. The ginger does have that strong smell, but we're going to cook it in. We're going to use some of that beef part, which for the most part is going to cover up any flavor that they might be averse to. Plus, we're going to cook it in. Yeah, I think it's going to be good. That being said, you know, Nico will have the final say in whether or not he can taste it. Or Fed, one of our taste testers, will definitely tell us. And, you know, that's the problem with having this new recipe that I haven't tried yet. We can do all of this. It all looks good on paper, but the second we put it in front of our dog or cat, if they don't eat it, it's back to the drawing board. So we'll see. Yeah, it's an adventure. Okay, so then we're gonna go ahead and add our rinsed wild rice to this rice cooker.
Why are you using wild rice?
So there is kind of a rumor going around, as sometimes does in our community, that regular rices are contaminated with heavy metals, which can be true. Depends on where they're grown. And a lot of these deep-rooted plants pull heavy metals from the soil. Wild rice, less so. And it's also less inflammatory. So a lot of people, again, they're trying to keep their dog from having an inflammatory action, whether that's from allergies or joint pain. And they want to stay away from rice because it can cause inflammation. So that's why we're staying away from white rice. We're doing wild rice. It's also higher in fiber, lower in carbohydrates. So this recipe is low in carb. Which is going to be really good for your dogs who are sensitive to glycemic shifts or watching the glycemic index for diabetes, just like with humans.
Interesting.
Yeah. And then we're going to go ahead and add our kale, which needs to be cooked too. Add our sweet potato.
Well, thank God we never seen that.
Yes, Nico. Say hello to everyone. Add our ginger, which Nico is not a fan of. Yep.
He performs our quality.
That's a no. Alright, and then we're going to add water. This was just what the manufacturer recommended for the wild rice, plus a little extra so we can make sure to cover these vegetables. Mix this around. So have everything. Please. Thank you. Alright, turn that on and hope for the best. Then, while we're doing that, we will go ahead and chop up this beef heart, if you wouldn't mind. Now, this beef heart is from OC Raw. They are a company to carry here at the store. You can also find beef hearts at most grocery places, in the butcher departments. If you're having trouble at your everyday store like Safeway, if you go to one of the Asian markets, they're incredibly inexpensive. I went to sort of check out ingredients the other day at the SF market on the 82nd Foster there, and they had every meat product you could imagine. Dog, they have beef, they have every fish under the sun, and it was all relatively inexpensive, as well as mushrooms, which anybody who's in the nutrition world knows that mushrooms are great for so many things, and each mushroom has a different nutrient profile. So if you're looking for mushrooms, definitely go to one of those markets because it's the widest variety I've ever seen. So,
And with the beef, we're doing just kind of a rough chop.
yes, it's going to go in the blender, so that's perfect right there. And then we will go ahead and into this blender, we're going to add our almond milk. So the almond milk there, this is fortified almond milk. I'm using it to bring up the calcium and vitamin D levels in this a little bit, as well as I needed a liquid base. Then we're going to go ahead and add our blueberries. These are antioxidants. We're also trying to keep a pH balance that is supportive for urinary health. So
Okay.
go ahead and pour those in for me. We're going to add our pumpkin seeds. These pumpkin seeds are sprouted. It changes the nutrient index just a little bit so that they're healthier. So sprouted pumpkin seeds, you can find them at health food stores, or you can sprout them yourself, which is just a couple of nights in water, just like you would sprout mung beans or something like that for salads.
Okay.
Yeah. And then also the pumpkin seeds have omega-6 in them. So we want to keep our omega-6 and our omega-3s. Go ahead and add the spirulina and the cinnamon to this as well. So spirulina is like seaweed, but it's not actually seaweed. It's an algae. This is where we're getting our EPA and our DHA. And now this is a lot. So I think in future recipes, I might use a spirulina wheatgrass blend or something that isn't quite so heavy on the spirulina, but has similar nutrient profiles, because I am worried that this is going to throw off the flavor profile enough that the dog's going to say, no, thank you. But this is how much we need. I actually reduced it from the original recipe from 50 grams to 30 grams. This is 30 grams. And it provides appropriate EPA and DHA, which are omega fatty acids that are essential for brain health. So again, we're talking about that gut-brain axis. It has to go in through the gut to affect the brain. These fatty acids are lacking in our diet as well as in dogs, right? So we're just not eating enough fish. This is essentially like the Mediterranean diet for dogs. This also has trace minerals in it, so you know your zinc, magnesium, that sort of thing. We're gonna add the cinnamon in here. I'm gonna pop this open. This is vitamin E, and the reason we're adding vitamin E is because your essential fatty acids that this diet is really high oxidize very quickly. And oxidization outside of the body makes the food spoil, but inside of the body causes free radicals, which can cause all sorts of health issues. So the vitamin E is very important if you're using a lot of algae, seaweed, fish oil, or you're doing a fish-based food. It's important for everything, but the more essential fatty acids you have in the food, the more vitamin E you need to protect those fatty acids from going rancid. Okay. Now we're going to add in the beef heart, which brings up your zinc, it brings copper, also makes it very palatable. And that's what we're hoping for here, anyway.
How much beef heart are we at?
This, I believe, is 50 grams, 100 grams. 100 grams of beef heart, so it ends up being about 2 ounces. Yeah. Don't quote me on that. The hardest part of my nutrition course has been to unlearn imperial and relearn metric. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and add our quail eggs. So we want to make sure that we're getting enough cysteine. The amino acid profile of this mackerel, which is our main ingredient in this diet, is limiting in the amino acid cysteine, which is another reason why we're adding beef and then we're adding quail. So a lot of times what you see is like all fish, all poultry, all land animals have specific amino acids. Beef heart high in taurine, right? But your other things may be low in those amino acids. So we're trying to make it a more complete amino acid profile by adding things from other species that might have more cysteine in this. Woo! Whee! Nico, let's
What does cysteine do?
Cysteine, along with other things like methionine, can join in the body to make essential interactions, which, now that you put me on the spot, I cannot recall for the life of me. So you've got your methionine, you've got your cysteine. These things, if this was limited in taurine, they might be used to build taurine in the body so that the heart can function properly. The reason why we need protein in our diet is not protein specifically, it's actually the amino acids that they provide. So everything that is protein-based is because of the amino acids that they provide. Now we're cooking with gas. I could not remember that for the life of me. We're cooking with fire. Great. All right, so that's going to be a beautiful color of green, I think. Wow, look at that. Ew, disgusting. All right, then we're going to add our chia seeds in here because this isn't thick enough. The chia seeds are going to thicken it up, but they're also another beneficial fiber, which I've heard that people are doing a whole like chia diet these days. If you decide to do that, go easy on the chia seeds. A little bit goes a long way. You do not want to end up in the bathroom after having too many chia seeds. That is not the sort of gut cleanse that anybody wants to be having right now. Alright, so that's done. I'm going to add some of this brine to this to make it more flavorful here. Oh my gosh, it smells delicious. Gingery. And so what kind of fish is this? This is Atlantic mackerel. I like the small fish, obviously. Again, you don't want like a lot of heavy metal contamination. You don't want mercury, and the smaller fish have more of those fatty acids that we want, the right profile.
Is it true that that predator fish carry more heavy metals than these fish?
Absolutely, because they're eating these guys, right? So like this might have 10 parts per million mercury. I'm just making this up. And then you have another fish that is eating it. They already have 10 parts per million. Now they've got 20 parts per million. That's not leaving their system. Now they eat another fish and they've 30 parts per million, right? Whereas these little guys, they're feeding on things like microalgae and stuff, that plankton. They don't have a lot of heavy metal contamination. So
and the larger
it's not
fish have a longer lifespan.
They do. That's true. Very, very true.
Oh, did we want to crush up the hills?
Yes, but how? This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
We're going to take a paper bag. We're going to take a hammer. All right, we're going to see if this works. Ready?
Yeah.
The table is not strong enough.
And if you don't have a mortar and pestle,
I don't have a mortar and pestle, improvise. Dollar bill, y'all. Oh, look at that, I didn't even get that one.
Yeah.
Calcium Carbonate.
Oh, yeah, okay, so what we'll do after this is we'll just chop off the fish and we're gonna mix this in a big bowl with fish. Make sure you get extra fish so that your taste tester can have some. One of the reasons also that I like to do, I would have gotten like a raw fish and sardines, anchovies are also good choices, but raw fish has thymidines in it, which is a enzyme that inhibits thymine uptake. So for fish, such as mackerel with thymidines in it, I like to get it cooked, or you can cook it yourself. I'm not going to do that. Jamie, my partner, has allergy to ocean-going creatures, and so I just try not to cook fish in my house well. If you're going to feed it raw, though, you do have to account for the loss of thymine and add extra thymine back into it.
Okay, so we're just gonna get the mackerel rough chopped before we mix it in with all the other yums. And you know, it doesn't really matter how you chop the fish because it's
Yeah, it's
like
gonna
a
be
soft
blended in.
protein
It's
that'll
so
fall
soft.
apart,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. All right, so then we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna do this big bowl here. I should have brought hot pads. That was silly. So. Okay, you bring the bowl.
really good at that.
Thank you. I'm also good at trauma dumping stuff. All right, so now we're gonna add our fish in here. This was two 15-ounce cans of mackerel. They cost me about $3 each, I think. It was really inexpensive. And then one smaller can. You're gonna go ahead and add that water in as well. I drained these big guys because they were in salt water. I wanted to rinse some of the sodium off. This is in water with no sodium added, so I'm not worried about it. And then we're gonna mix it together with the big spoon there. This is the mainstay of our diet. This is gonna make about 3 days worth of food for my dog who is 43 pounds. I did not do the math for how much Nico would get of this, so he's just gonna get whatever I serve him on a plate. He's 117 pounds, so I don't think I'm gonna throw him off.
Cover your ears.
I heard my name, I'm ready. I'm gonna get the nice plate, we can plate it up.
Does the blender stuff go?
Yes, but at the end. So for purposes of making this look beautiful, we're gonna put a couple of scoops on here, and then I'm gonna drizzle. If all of this is being fed to the same dog, we're not gonna worry about how much of the sauce that we put over it, because as long as they're getting fed all of this sauce over the amount of days that they eat this food, then they're gonna get what they need. And for presentation purposes, I'm just gonna pour some on. However, if you wanna just mix it into your food, that's totally fine. And then, like I said, if you wanna store it, you can put the sauce in with the main meal, mix it together, or you can store them separately and pour it over the top as you go. Just make sure that you're using up all of the sauce because that's where we have all of our vitamins. So you won't get a complete diet if you're not using sauce. And then we'll just wait for this to cool and we'll feed it to me.
All right, Nico, you ready?
So now you're gonna do all the cleanup, right?
Yes.
That's why I brought you here.
Of course.
So you're experienced with both chopping the food and doing the dishes.
I am.
You're a
Yes.
domestic goddess.
Mhm.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
And he's single. Fellas. Just saying. No, we're keeping it. Keeping it in there. So that's it. Thank you guys for joining us. What I would like to do for next time is use some of these same ingredients and we're gonna make a cat food. So, and then I will send it home for you and you can try it with your kitty.
Yes.
We've posted the recipe in the description below.